Hey guys, what's up? Rob Shoecraft here with Three Summer Fitness, and I'm going to talk to you this morning about my experiences. I guess you could call it a review with Christan Thibaudeau's 915 program, 915, whatever it's called, 915, and I believe they call it 915 because it's 9 weeks, and he kind of advertises that you can gain as much as 15% in strength across the board, which is a huge claim. 15% strength across the board, in 9 weeks for an experienced lifter. Although he doesn't really say, at least from what I could gather, doesn't really say whether or not that is for an experienced lifter or a green lifter, or somewhere in between. I personally, I'm not sure how I'm going to go about this. I'm just going to kind of talk about my experience with it and give you a general idea of what it is. It's a free program. I read it on T Nation because I was looking for. I haven't really had much experience with power cleans, and I wanted to work on power cleans. So I wanted to work a kind of a powerlifting program that featured power cleans as a main lift. So that's kind of how I stumbled across this. And I saw that 15%, and I thought, that'll be the day. Like, that's not going to happen. And spoiler alert, it did not happen. I did not add 15%. But anyways, he says 15%. He says if you don't get 10% gains, then there was probably something wrong with your accessory lift selection, which we'll talk about in a second, or your nutrition and recovery. And that might have been the case. I mean, it certainly could have been the case. But I did experience very good gains across the board with the exception of the deadlift. And again, I'll talk about that. But what I was going to say was, you know, while a new lifter might experience 15% gains in 9 weeks, it's not, it wouldn't be super uncommon. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this program for a new lifter. I feel like it's overkill. So I'm not saying no one's ever gotten 15% on it. I'm sure they have. I mean, the Tib Army or whatever, he's got quite a monster following. You know, you play the numbers. I'm sure some people have hit 10%, 15% on this program. So I'm not downplaying. I'm just talking about my personal experience with it. So I came into this thing as I guess you call, if you put any stock in like strength standards, you know, I think I mentioned this in another video one time. You got like symmetricstrength.com has good strength standards, exrx.net, strengthlevel.com. If I like aggregate all my numbers on a site like those, I'm usually in like the advanced category, not like elite or world class or anything. I wouldn't be that competitive in a powerlifting meet or competitive at all. But I'm pretty strong for like a regular gym goer. I'm pretty strong. Regular natural gym goer, I should say. So I came into this thing with I guess like I said, I'd be like in high intermediate to kind of low advanced depending on the lift. So I came into this thing, I tested my maxes before I went in. By the way, it's bench, squat, just a regular back squat, deadlift, you choose whether sumo or conventional, it's whatever deadlift style you like, and then power cleans or hang cleans. And I think it's hang cleans. Is it hang cleans or maybe high pulls? I'm pretty sure it was hang cleans. Anyways, I chose for power cleans anyway. So those are the 4 main lifts you're measuring and working on throughout the 9 weeks. And so I came in with a 355 bench. This is a 1 rep max. A 425 back squat. Squats have been my weakest lift. I'm kind of late to the game on back squats. Oh, there's a little baby deer out there. I am distracted again. 520 on the deadlift. I started with conventional, kind of feet, you know, shoulder width apart, give or take. And then a 225 power clean. It was my first time doing power cleans. I kind of like practiced the technique with really light weight a couple weeks ahead of time. but 225 was the max I had when I tried it out. Okay, so here are my numbers after the fact. After 9 weeks, I tested them all last week. I got a 375 bench. Now this is I didn't have a spotter or anything. I had to lift it for me, like to lift it off the rack for me. So you probably sacrifice a couple pounds on that. I'm not making excuses, but it is so much nicer when you can have somebody lift off for you and then focus on the lift rather than having to, you burn a little bit of energy that way. Could I have hit 380, 385 if I had a spotter? Maybe. I felt pretty good on that, but I failed at 380 by myself. So whatever. It's 375 is what I got. So that's a 20-pound gain in 9 weeks. I know it doesn't meet the 10% mark that he's talking about, but I was happy with it, honestly. I got 450 on my back squats. That's a 25-pound gain. Awesome. I'm fine with that. Again, I didn't hit the 15%. I never thought I would. Maybe that's why I didn't get it. I don't know, but I don't think that was it. Power cleans, I hit 250. So that's another 25 pound gain. And then, so I was happy with that. I think that was probably had a lot to do with technique, just like sharpening my technique throughout the program. Deadlift, however, oddly enough, this is where I was most excited about, because I was just ripping through the deadlift days, killing them. And I think it was week 7, and I'll talk about the structure. I'm kind of all over the place here. I want to say it was week 7. You build up to doing 3 sets, 3 doubles at 100% of your initial max weight. And I'd gone on the week before. I hit 3 triples at 95%. And just smoked them. I mean, it was no problem. I was like, this next week is going to be, I might actually get 10-15% on this deadlift. And I didn't even break it off the ground that next week. I was so fried. The deadlift days. Okay, so here's the structure of it. You work out you lift 5 days a week. Really, the last day is kind of like a loose. It's like you could do sled pushes, recovery. You could do vanity lifts, like bicep curls, high intensity training, whatever. I kind of use those days to work my core, upper back a little extra, and just a lot of recovery, a lot of mobility and flexibility, SMR stuff. So I took it kind of easy on that 5th day, but you have a bench day, and what you do is, he starts you off. It's kind of like a linear periodization where you have higher volume, lower intensity. Although you never go over 6 reps. You're always working at the very, very lightest in the beginning of the program. You're working with 80%. I think you start off with 5. Your first exercise is 5 sets. I'll link to an article. You can read all about it. 5 sets at 6 reps at 80%, and then stack on your accessory lifts. So every workout, so your bench days is whatever you're benching standard straight bar the whole time through, all 9 weeks through. But then you pick you work 3 weeks for 2 sets of accessory lifts, or you work on your weakness for the first 3 weeks. You pick accessories that, so for me, it's I have a really strong lockout, pretty strong triceps, but kind of weak off the chest. So I did hover presses. I can't remember what else I did. I want to say banded. I think I did banded press. Those were my first lifts, and then you do squat. At the very end of the workout, you do 5 sets, usually between 80 and 82.5% of your squat max. So 5 sets at 2 reps. And that's what he calls dynamic training. I'm not a pro. I'm not an expert when it comes to powerlifting. But everything I've ever read about dynamic training, I mean, that seems pretty darn heavy for explosive work. Nevertheless, you get more practice with relatively heavy weight on your on the bar. So if anything, technique, but it was really tough for me to get real explosive with 82.5% of my max. But I mean, whatever. It was what it was. I do think it benefited. That's just a little caveat or a little side anecdote there. Squat days, it's the same thing. Basically the same setup. You work your accessory. A lot of it focuses on your accessory lifts. So like I said, you got like a relatively pretty much a linear periodization model where you're going from a little bit higher volume, lower intensity in the first few weeks, and build through to lower volume, higher intensity, where you're pulling, like I said, heavy doubles by the end. Heavy doubles at 105% of your initial max, which is pretty heavy, just by relative definition. But everything is built around the accessories. So I'm not going to read it exactly because I'm going off of memory here. But first 3 weeks you focus on your weaknesses. You pick accessories to focus on your weaknesses. Like for squats, for instance, I was doing like 1.5 rep squats and I think pause squats. I don't remember exactly what I did. You think I remember off the top of my head, but and then you train where you're still working on your weakness, but you work on overloading. So I was using a lot of like reverse band configurations for the overloading. So basically you get used to handling more weight than you can actually do, and partial range of motion. And then the last little block you do overloading and focus on your strength. So, you know, I was focusing on my lockout, things like that, where I'm stronger on the bench press, for instance, or actually for all my lifts, I'm always stronger in the lockout position. And okay, so that's the structure. It's all about accessories, and then same thing for the cleans. You're focusing on explosive stuff. So I was doing like kettlebell exercises for my cleans, and then working on my hamstrings because I can always use more work there. Okay, so. Let's see, what was I going to mention? Okay, so the thing I love about it is I love how it centers around the importance of accessory work and working on your weaknesses, working on with more weight than you're used to. I think that was a big part of the gains that I did see. And it's not that I've never done accessory lifts before, but I like the structure of it. I like kind of a strategic approach to it. It was pretty solid. The thing I didn't like about it, a couple things I didn't like about it. One, there's no plan for when you don't hit your marks. Now, like I said, I hit it all the way through to I think the 7th or 8th week on all my lifts, and then I started bombing out. Like my bench, when I had to hit 3 doubles at 105, 105%. I got like the first set and I couldn't hit the rest. Squats, I think I ran through squats all the way through. Deadlifts, like I said, I bombed out real early on that. So there's no way to, like, he doesn't have instructions in there what to do if you don't hit your numbers. Now, in a lot of these kind of style programs, a lot of programming will kind of have you backtrack a couple weeks, start at those numbers that you were working with, and then work your way back up. But it doesn't quite jive with the timeline. This is a very fixed period of the program when it comes to testing, so it's kind of, you can't really do that exactly. You sort of just do your best, I guess. He doesn't really have instructions there, so that'd be kind of helpful. Like I said, I kind of had to wing it a little bit there in the last week or two. It's also, and you know, you're going to have varying opinions on this, and I respect most of them, but it's so much deadlifting. I mean, it got to the point where I was doing, I think, 13 to 15 pretty darn heavy sets of some sort of deadlifting exercise. You know, 3 different deadlifting exercises, 15 total sets in one point, maybe it's 13, whatever. I was so drained throughout the weeks as I got further in this program that, I mean, I was having to get, and this is fine, by the way. Like, this is just what this is what you get when you work hard. But there's something about this. I think it was the deadlifts that just, like I said, I was feeling great, and then it just burned me out. Where, you know, I usually like to have I don't know, I probably drink 6 to 10 beers a week. You know, throughout the week I might have 1 or 2 at night, every other night. I don't like approach it that strategically, but it does kind of mess with my sleep a little bit. So I completely cut out drinking altogether for those 9 weeks because I was just so, I was trying to maximize my sleep as much as I could, because if I didn't, I was total, it was brutal. So, you know, things like that, I had to really make sure I was eating enough. I didn't exactly eat clean. I should have probably, but I didn't. But I was definitely eating a lot in terms of, you know, protein and carbohydrates. Just, and, but again, those deadlifts, man, it's just it just seemed like a lot of heavy volume for deadlifts. And some people respond well to that. A lot of people don't. Like, I know, and like, I'm not super versed with like the West Side method, but they don't do a lot of deadlifting. And anyways, take it for what it's worth. If you don't like deadlifts, I wouldn't do this program. What I ended up doing for the deadlifts, and this kind of goes against like my cardinal rule with programs and diets, is just do what the program says, do what the diet says. But I found that I was doing sumo squats for one of my accessory lifts, and I haven't done a lot of sumos in the past, and I've always been weak in them because my hamstrings have always been kind of a weak point. But I found from doing all those squats, I was doing a lot of box squats too as accessories. And over the past, since I last really tried heavy sumo deadlifts, which was at least a year ago, I've noticed my hamstrings have gotten a lot stronger, and I feel my hams so much more in a sumo deadlift, and I feel I'm able to lock my lats in a little bit better. So I've one kind of odd side effect of this is that I've sort of switched to sumo deadlifts, kind of on the fly. That's actually what I ended up testing with, instead of doing my conventional deadlift where I got 520 before. And so I guess that's sort of a good thing. Even though I went against the program, I didn't test with the original lift I went with. I didn't finish that way. I finished the last couple weeks with doing sumos as my main lift, which is significantly less weight, although significantly more than I've ever done in the sumo. So I think the last time I did a sumo deadlift, it was like, I think I topped out at like 440 or something, and I did 495 when I tested. So that was a big jump for me. I felt real strong within my lower back, felt great, and so that's kind of a caveat. You don't care, you probably won't do that. So again, let me just sum this up because this is a long video. I got to go set up for a kids class here in a second. So what I like about the 915 program, I love the attention to accessory lifts. I love that you just have to, you have to work real hard. It's a grind. They're kind of long sessions. Like I was going an hour and a half each session, because you have to rest in between sets. I was resting between 3 and 5 minutes depending on. Plus you got to do the dynamic effort stuff at the end, the explosive days or whatever they call them. So again, you're benching. I'm so out of order here. You're benching and squatting twice a week. You're deadlifting once, power cleaning once. So I like the structure of it. I like the attention to accessory lifts. I like that you just have to grind. You got to do that every now and then. I don't like that there's no strategy for when you don't hit your numbers, because everything, those 115, that 115%, 110 to 115% is based around your ability to be able to hit your numbers toward the end. If you do the math, that's kind of how it works out. But there's no way around it if you can't get it, in those last couple weeks. So that's kind of my main gripe with that. And then deadlifts. If I were to do this program again, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what I'd do, but I wouldn't deadlift quite as much for me. That's what I found out. I found out about myself. That's a good, even when programs don't work out, because no program is for everybody, or no program is 100% for everybody all the way through. You find out things about yourself. I found out that deadlifts absolutely smoke me. that's kind of a common stereotype that they get, whether true or false. It's, that, some people just get absolutely fried when they do tons of deadlifts, but some people thrive on them. I wouldn't say I thrive on them. So I've learned something about myself. I like the program overall. It just needs a little tuning up, in my opinion. Maybe he has a premium version. Like, it could be one of those things where he just offers, kind of like a taster, like 531. Windler's written a lot of free articles on 531, yet he has like a 200-page book on, if you actually want to do the program, you have all these plans. So maybe Thibaudeau did things like that. I don't know. But I just went off the free version. So a lot of my criticisms might be completely moot. All right, guys, that's about it. If you have any experiences with this program, 915, let me know. Love to hear about them. And thanks a lot for watching. You guys have a great day.